In this video, we're going to be discussing concussions in the NHL, and we're going to take a look at last night's incident with Jonathan Quick at the LA Kings Toronto Maple Leafs game. And that's coming up next. So last night we saw the Toronto Maple Leafs battle the LA Kings in Toronto. The Leafs came out on top with a 3-2 victory. But the big story really wasn't the victory, in my opinion. The big story was the concussion protocol in the NHL. We saw in the first period, Jonathan Quick take a bump from a combination of Zach Hyman of the Leafs and one of his own players, one of their defensemen, bumps into Jonathan Quick where he gets a shot to the head. You could clearly see Quick clutching and grabbing at his head to indicate that he took a bump and that he was injured. Shortly thereafter, a concussion spotter had called down and requested that Quick be removed from the game and to be examined by doctors as per their concussion protocol. Jonathan Quick did not want to come out of the game and gave the referees a hard time and refused to leave at first. He was later forced to leave and had to come off the ice. Although the LA Kings, in my opinion, made a complete mockery of this protocol and this policy, as Quick was off the ice no more than maybe 30 seconds? The policy indicates that the player in question is to go down the hall to the quiet room, be examined by a doctor, given concussion protocol tests, and determine if it's safe for that player to return to the game or not. This clearly was not the case, as there was no way they had any amount of time. I'm not even sure Quick left the bench. Didn't look like he did. I realize that a lot of players will say, yeah, I'm fine. But obviously in this case, for player safety, where everything is at in the NHL today, with concussions, pending lawsuits, all these new protocols, this is for their own safety, and this policy was clearly not followed to the way it's supposed to be last night. Clearly you could tell Jonathan Quick didn't want to come out of the game. Now obviously a lot of times players think they're fine when they're really not, and they don't want to come out. And I completely understand that from playing sports myself in the past. However, this is not the protocol. The protocol is the protocol. There should not be a gray area here. If there is a concussion concern, that player needs to come out for their own safety. Now, I've seen the argument in other media reports since this happened that maybe he wasn't hurt as badly as he let on. Maybe he was selling the call. Well, you know what? That angers me too. That is completely ridiculous. I see this all the time in the NHL and other sports. The NHL is not as bad as some other professional leagues, but it drives me a little bit crazy how players sell calls. Now I understand as a professional athlete, you want to win at all costs, and you want to do anything you can do to get yourself and your team an advantage. But you can't be screwing around with the rules when it comes to this stuff. Portraying yourself as a victim of a head injury to draw a penalty, but then you don't think you need to follow the concussion protocol, it's absolutely ridiculous. Just selling calls and to get your teams an advantage and have the other team be called for penalties, I just totally disagree with that. I mean, as a youngster growing up playing sports, I was always taught, you play hard, you play the whistle, and you keep going at all costs. As a hockey player, should your main objective be either as a goalie to make that save at all costs, or if you're not a goalie to score that goal at all costs? I mean, obviously, if you're going to pretend you're injured just to draw a penalty, I mean, that kind of thing drives me crazy. That takes away the integrity from the game. Your job as a player is to play until that whistle goes, and your job is to try to score that goal or to make that big save or defend within the rules. That's the way it is. That's the way it's supposed to be. Like, there doesn't seem to be that integrity in the game anymore. And as a fan who's been watching hockey for over 30 years, it kind of drives me crazy. You never used to see this kind of activity. If you look back in the day when Wayne Gretzky, Mario Lemieux, and these guys, Mario Lemieux took a lot of abuse, and his career was probably cut short due to injuries from the amount of whacking and slashing and everything that was going on in the game during his era. But you know what? Mario never stopped. He always kept going. He always tried to score that goal at all costs. You could whack at him, but if you didn't get the puck, he kept going. He wasn't flopping around on the ice and grabbing his head and doing anything else to try to draw penalties, because he wasn't that kind of player. That kind of player is missing in the league now. There's too many guys that do the opposite of that, and as a fan, that drives me crazy. And if they are really injured, which is often the case, follow the player safety protocol and do what you're supposed to do. I mean, it's there for your own protection. Obviously, you are a hockey player and you want to play and you want to help your team win. But at the same time, you're still a person, you're a husband, you're a father, you're a son, you're an uncle, whatever you may be. And you need to look after yourself. Hockey's a big part of your life, I understand. You make lots of money doing it. But at the same time, it's only a part of your life. It's not your whole life. And you don't want to end up with your health in a situation where it completely screws your whole life. It's bad enough it could impact you as an athlete, but take a look at some of the players around that have been impacted by this, not only on the ice, but off the ice as well, and maybe give that a second thought. So in my opinion, the LA Kings and Jonathan Quick look really, really, really bad here. Obviously, if he really was just selling the call, and he's getting burned now that he, obviously didn't follow concussion protocol. It makes it either obvious. Either one of two things happen. Either he was selling the call, he wasn't hurt, and he was making a mockery of it, or number two, he obviously was ignoring the fact that he might have been hurt, and doctors, for whatever reason, let it go and let him back in the game, which isn't good for his safety. Either way, as a fan, it really, really does not sit well with me. They've made a complete mockery of this policy. So needless to say, I will be quite curious to hear Jonathan Quick's response to this. I am sure he's going to have to face some questions in the media sooner or later, hopefully later today, sooner than later, to see what he has to say about this. Clearly, is he going to publicly admit that he was selling a call and that he wasn't really hurt? I highly doubt it. But at the same time, I can't imagine that the LA Kings or Jonathan Quick can honestly say with any amount of certainty themselves, without knowing that they're lying, that they followed proper protocol. So I hope the rest of the NHL was paying attention, and I hope the other players notice that at the end of the day, if you're going to be selling calls and trying to get your team advantages, you better not be messing around with anything that appears to be a concussion. If you haven't had a chance to see the play that happened with resulted in Quick getting hit and what happened afterwards, I'm going to put a link down in the description so you can click on it to watch the NHL footage of this incident last night. So make sure you don't forget, if you like this video, please smash that like button. Leave a comment down below to let me know what you think of this video and let me know what you think of the incident that happened last night. There's also that subscribe button in the middle of your screen. If you're new to the channel, want to keep up with all future content, please click that to subscribe today. And keep watching Top Shelf Hockey.